Hi, Sarah. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good too. Thanks for being the third guest in this series here. We're doing a series on Alignable in the small business podcast group, and we're interviewing members of the group and just getting to know them and understanding what they do. So I'd love to just start with you in terms of what do you do now?
I am the founder and CEO of People Architectural Group. We are a human resources company that focuses on talent acquisition and talent development. So every day, all day, we do training and development and recruiting. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like most of us, COVID hit and it caused us to pivot a little bit or change maybe what we were doing. Was that some level of push for you into going into this world of having your own business?
Absolutely. In 2019, I was able to step away from my full-time job that I had for nearly 10 years for family reason. And as I was trying to, thought I was going to go back into the workforce, COVID happened. And so I started doing some consulting and some picking up some projects so I can be home with my children, and it just happened organically. Just people that I've hired back in 2011 just start calling me and asking me for help, and it just kind of worked out perfectly. And so People Architecture is strong. We are almost, February will be 2 years. Our company continue to provide hiring solution and trying to align people with business strategies. That's what we do, and trying to help them understand how do you get your people. This is one of the biggest problem people have. We want to hire people, but we don't know how to link them into what we do as a business.
Yeah.
And so I help them do that.
Yeah, people are definitely what makes businesses run. Great Resignation, obviously very big in the media, but generally businesses have problems finding good people anyway. What's your opinion on that in terms of finding good people? Obviously, I'm sure your services help, but what would you recommend for the typical business that's having a challenging time getting good quality people to help them grow their company?
Absolutely. I think before the pandemic, a lot of organization was trying to figure out how to align their people with their strategy, trying to figure out what their employee needs.
Right.
And with the pandemic, employees are starting to figure out that we always want people to bring their whole self to work. And then we're finding out that now people are saying that my whole self haven't been at work. It's only part of me. Now people want to bring their family to work, and that's the hybrid world. They want to bring everything else. They realize that there's other priority. Life is short. I want to do it. So if I'm going to work, it needs to work for me for everything. And so you have employee who's telling employers that you need to look at what hybrid look like. What does the work environment looks like? They are telling the employee that if you want me here, you have to pay me for what I'm worth. And then they are telling employee, I want the benefit to match with what I'm doing. And so when you're thinking about people are leaving there, or they are just saying that, my God, I don't have to do what I'm doing right now. The world is in my canvas. I don't have to work with an organization just in the US. I can work somewhere else and international. We are global now, right? And so employers really need to kind of think about what their employee wants. If you want to be a global world, what does that look like? How do I make sure that the people that are in my organization understand that? So you need to look at that. Your policy need to match what you say you want the organization. The policy need to match it. The compensation need to match it. The hybrid world need to be. I think hybrid. Any organization who does not want to focus on the hybrid is not going to work, because nobody want to work 9 to 5 in a building anymore.
Right.
So just a little, my thought is employers need to look at the whole employee life cycle and what does it look like, and make sure that they create an organization that meets the needs of their people who works for them.
You said something really interesting to me. Well, you said a lot of things that are interesting, but one thing in particular stood out to me was you said employers have to line up what they say with what they do. I'm
Absolutely.
paraphrasing.
Yep.
I see this a lot where, especially in small businesses, I think sometimes we think we're A, but we're delivering B, and that causes a wrinkle in how we attract employees and retain them. Do your services actually help businesses kind of get aligned with in terms of this is what you should be about. This is what you're saying you're going to be. This is what you should be about. Like you said, remote or some type of remote and home type mix. Do you help with them in aligning those values and training and things so that they're on the same page and they're consistent with their message?
Absolutely. So this is kind of like the assessment. Before you actually do the work, you need to step back and say, I am an organization that's been in existence for however many times. What have I done? What has my practice been? And then now we want to create this kind of work. What does that look like? And so you may not be able to do everything in a month or whatever, but I think having that plan and letting employees know that I'm listening to you. And so, yes, we can help you do that analysis if that's something that you want to do before you come in and said, I want you to do training for me, Sarah, but let's step back and understand who's on my team, who's on the shop right now, and how do I make sure that they understand the vision of where we're going. And then before you bring somebody else in, where people who are in the organization don't even know where you're going, right? So we need to align those, we need to focus on the ones that we have right now before we bring anybody else. So you hear people talking about diversity and inclusion, you hear people talking about the hybrid, you hear so many themes going on right now, but those who are on the bus right now need to understand what it is, where we are going before you start bringing others in. Otherwise, you're adding problems to your already problematic issues.
Yeah, that's a good point. What in terms of skills, what are you finding in your practice? Do you work on certain types of skills that you place, acquire talent acquisition, or are you pretty across the board?
I'm across the board. Over this past year, we've focused a lot on cybersecurity,
Mm.
business development, and finance. Last year, it was all about healthcare. But what we do is we provide services for the core of what businesses do. So your managers, your line managers, your finance, your chiefs executive, CEOs, CFOs. So we've been filling a lot of those roles because those are the core to business. So regardless of what industry it is still the same position, your HR, your finance, and so on.
Yeah, all key positions. What one other question I have, just in regards to this whole hybrid world now, remote working, either remote or working in the office or having some hybrid of it. Do you think this is something that's here forever, or do you envision a sliding back to a more in the office type more, or what are your thoughts on it? I'm curious.
Oh, I don't think we're ever going to get back to what it was before.
Yeah.
I think we have tasted the sugar. We know it's sweet. We want to be home. Nobody's going to do that. And
Right.
so I think I don't want to be in an office 9 to 5. I think we are realizing that we can get the work done more effectively instead of having somebody sit in traffic for 3 hours, an hour there, an hour back. We can get them working so we get more of them. And so, if they need to do something, come back to work, then that's what it is. So I think the hybrid is here to stay.
Yeah, good point. So now I want to switch gears. Podcasting. You're here as a guest, which I really appreciate. What are your goals in terms of the podcasting world? Do you envision yourself having a podcast? Do you want to be a guest? Where does this go?
So right now, I'll be your guest. Um, I'll be your guest. My company just started a series of webinars on finding common ground. We
Mhm.
just had our first webinar on this month, November 17th, and we're having another one in December 15th. So I think this is reaching the HR like myself. For the longest time, I just needed the help. I just needed somebody who walked the step that I've done before. And I think bringing HR together, talking to them, helping them understand, like, I understand you. What are other people are doing that we can collaborate on, and we can kind of get into that common ground on and bring those things back to your organization. So we had a great conversation on the themes that we had. And next month we are talking about what can we do from a hire and hybrid. What does hybrid look like in hiring? And so we'll talk about that, and then the culture and things like that. So we have a series of awesome topics coming through. In January, we'll talk about what does the employee experience look like?
Mm.
How do we make sure that from a hybrid perspective, how do we get that experience? And so we're going to focus on webinar right now, and I'll leave the podcast to you.
This webinar, if there are people in the audience listening to this and they say, "Hey, I'm curious about it," should they just message you on Alignable, or is there a place they could go to check it out?
Absolutely. They can Alignable, reach out to me, inbox me there. They can also reach me. I'm on LinkedIn, my website, people2, PEOPLETU group.com. They can find information on that as well.
Okay. And when I post this, I'll put the link in the post, the text part too.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks so much for your time. It was fun chatting with you, and I look forward to sharing texts and messages in the group.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Sure. Thank you.
All right.